Alright, and for the first YouTube video, we are talking about the MCU movies. If you're getting into the MCU, 22 movies can seem very, very daunting, so we're going to break it down into the top 10 essential movies for the MCU. Obviously, there are some that people are going to debate me on, but they're wrong. It's fine. Let's start at the very beginning. That is a very good place to start. The original three, their first movies are essential movies for many, many reasons. Let's start with, if we're going in chronological order, Captain America. You are not only introduced to his character, who he is as a person, and how that he has a lot of character development in that first movie alone, but you're also introduced to him and Bucky's relationship as surrogate brothers, as war buddies, and as best friends. And you're also introduced to the amazing, badass, incredible Peggy Carter. So that's clearly an essential movie, because you need to start at the beginning for all three of the major characters. Obviously, the original Avengers, the 6 of them are the major characters, but everyone knows what I'm saying when I refer to the big three. It is Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. That's who it ends up being against Thanos during that first part of the end battle of Endgame. So, second essential movie is the first Iron Man, where that movie wraps up with the first iconic line that also ended a very delicate era in the MCU. I am Iron Man. You're introduced to his character, you're introduced to his relationship with Pepper Potts, you are introduced to Happy, you are introduced to so many people who are very necessary in the first decade of this franchise. Quickly moving on to number 3, the first Thor movie is essential for the same exact reasons. You need to watch the first movie of each of the big 3 men in the franchise, and the first team movie, obviously the Avengers. I like to remind people, when people are giving endless praise to the Russo brothers, that they are standing on the back of Joss Whedon, who did the first 2 Avengers movies. He wrote and directed them. The first Avengers movie was our first team up. We had seen Black Widow in the second Iron Man, and we'd seen team ups, but not anything like this. This was our first team movie with the original 6. This was Iron Man, Steve, Hulk, Thor, and Black Widow and Hawkeye. So you're also introduced to that dynamic, where you get to see that best friendship start, which is really, really important to me, because I feel like they're both very underrated characters. But the first team movie is filled with a beautiful story, strong character development, and incredible dialogue, which is what Joss Whedon is known for. Which moves us to number 5. This one people are going to debate me on, and I don't care. Age of Ultron. It's one of my favorite movies in the franchise. Other people will strongly disagree with that. Because the biggest criticism for Age of Ultron is it's too expositional. And Joss takes a lot of hits for that, from people who don't understand how industry works. The producers put a ton of pressure on Joss to make this a standalone movie, but to also make it set up the entirety of Phase 4, which he did, and then promptly quit working for Marvel. Same great team dynamic, more character development, more incredible dialogue, but this one is necessary for so many reasons. Obviously, it's a team movie, but that's honestly the least important reason to watch Age of Ultron. It introduces our new heavy hitters, Scarlet Witch and Vision, both proving to be very essential in the franchise moving forward, in not just Phase 3, but in Phase 4 as well, at least in the case of Scarlet Witch, which I'm super excited about, because she is my favorite character. And in all honesty, I was getting into comic books. I know far more now than I did at the beginning, like when Age of Ultron came out. But I had no idea who Scarlet Witch was before that movie. She got a total of, 10 minutes of screen time, and I would die for her. She became my favorite very quickly, and I, again, owe Joss life for that. But it does set up the entirety of Phase 3, breaking Joss Whedon. But he did it. It sets up Black Panther, it sets up Civil War, it sets up Guardian, it sets up Ragnarok, it sets up everything that happens in Phase 3. So whether you like it or not, it is essential viewing. It is in the top 10 for that reason. Number 6, Civil War. This one gets branded as an Avengers movie. Lots of people like to say that it's more an Avengers movie than it is a Captain America movie. Those people weren't paying attention to the plot at all. It's a relationship movie. It's a relationship movie about Bucky's relationship with Steve, about Natasha's relationship with Steve, and about Tony's relationship with Steve. Who's the common denominator there? Steve. It's Steve's movie. Okay. And it sets up the last 2 Avengers movies, because at the end of Civil War, we're fractured, we're split, we're spread apart, and that's kind of where everything starts, the beginning of Infinity War. The interactions and fallouts were a product of each character's relationship with Steve, and that does carry into the final 2 big movies of the saga. So the third Captain America movie is very, very important. This one might also be up for debate from some people. I don't really care. Number 7, Ant-Man and Wasp. If you don't watch it, you miss out on not only the gorgeous and amazing Evangeline Lilly, but you'll be lost for a good portion of Endgame because you won't know who Scott is. And he's the one that brings us the solution to getting our beloved heroes back after the events of Infinity War. It also might help you to hear about the quantum realm before you actually see them use it to travel through time. Sorry, there are major spoilers in this video. I will put that in the description and the title. Sorry, but the franchise has been 10 years in the making, so if you're just now getting into it and expecting to avoid spoilers, I don't know what to tell you. Number 8 and 9 go together because obviously if you're going to watch the top 10 movies of the first decade of the MCU, you have to watch Infinity War and Endgame. You cannot watch Endgame without Infinity War. Sorry, you can't do it. It's part 1 to closing out a 10-year arc. It is necessary. You have to watch it. Non-negotiable. And then, of course, Endgame. Now, these movies will help you understand Endgame, and there are plenty of people all over the internet that think they understood Endgame just fine, only seeing a few of the MCU movies. That's not true. Endgame calls back to every single movie in the last 10 years. Every single one. So if you don't see all of them, you're missing just truly how amazing Endgame is. You can understand the story, you can understand the plot without seeing all of them, but you will not get the full impact if you don't watch every single movie leading up to it. Your choice. You want to understand it or do you want to feel it? I like feeling my movies, especially my nerd ones. But if you're just trying to power through and get into the MCU before they start cranking them out again in Phase 4 and 5, these are the 10... Oh, those were 8 and 9, huh? Do I not know how to count? I'm so sorry. Number 10, Spider-Man Far From Home. People might argue with this one too. People want to argue with everything. But if you get attached to the characters while you're on this journey and after you see Endgame, Spidey's venture on his own is a good way to close out Phase 3 because it helps you. You really grieve Tony's death with him. And let it go before we enter Phase 4. And I think that's really, really important. And, of course, because people are going to argue with me, I will give you 2 honorable mentions. If you wanted to slip a couple extra in there, Guardians of the Galaxy, either one. I don't care. Pick one, but that way you know who that team is before you go into Infinity War and Endgame, and kind of get a sense of what their group dynamic is. They're basically the Space Avengers. And Thor Ragnarok, because we saw the rest of the group in Civil War and where they ended up at the beginning of Infinity War, but Hulk and Thor are not in that movie because they're off doing their own thing. So if you want to see just how Thor and Hulk got to where they were at the beginning of Infinity War, then it's important that you go see Thor Ragnarok as well. All right, and that is it for the top 10 essential movies of the first decade of the MCU. To kind of get you introduced to it, I have a lot of videos planned coming up, but if you have any questions about the current state of the MCU as we embark into Phase 4, or any specific character questions, or if you're just getting into comic books and you want me to break down a character and their major storylines, I'm happy to do it. We will be doing it with Scarlet Witch because she's my favorite and she doesn't get enough love. And I've already written like 5 articles on her, but I could talk about her for days. So hit me up with your questions, comments, concerns, any movie you want me to break down, any comic book storyline you want me to break down, any character you want me to break down, just hit me up and let me know.